My mom texted, "Don't come for Christmas. You're not successful enough for our image." She didn't know the CEO they needed for their biggest contract was me. I stayed quiet. The next morning their deal collapsed. "Hi, I'm Tessa 30F. And the day my own mother told me I wasn't welcome for Christmas because I wasn't successful enough for their image was the moment I knew I'd been erased from their picture-perfect family narrative. But what she didn't know, I had the power to shatter it. I wasn't always this composed. Growing up in a high-society family obsessed with perception, everything was about appearances. My mom and dad ran a high-end real estate agency together. You know the kind, flashy commercials, family Christmas photos in architectural digests, and holiday parties where they served champagne like water. They loved hosting. Loved being admired. But they only ever admired one of their children, my older sister Camille. Blonde pageant princess turned lifestyle influencer. Every year Camille's engagement rings got bigger and her sense of entitlement grew with them. Meanwhile I was the quiet one. The mathlete. The girl who wore glasses and forgot to smile in pictures. They never knew what to do with me. I wasn't useful for photo ops, so they kept me in the background. But while Camille was doing sponsored skincare hauls and my parents were selling million-dollar condos, I was quietly building something. I started in a dingy tech startup right after college, coding day and night, pushing limits. I failed a few times. Got burned. Got smarter. Fast forward to now and I'm the CEO of a cybersecurity firm that recently signed government contracts and sits on the cutting edge of AI protection tools. But here's the thing I never told my family. They never asked. They assumed I was still doing something with computers and never bothered to understand it. I didn't care. I had my team, my loft apartment, my own traditions. But last Christmas I decided I might show up. Just for the sake of it. I sent a casual text in the group chat asking what time dinner was. Mom didn't even reply there. She texted me privately. "Don't come for Christmas. You're not successful enough for our image. We don't want questions." That's all. No warmth. No explanation. Just rejection, like it was part of her daily routine. I didn't cry. I didn't even get angry. Instead I ordered sushi and poured myself a glass of wine. Then I turned on the fireplace in my loft and sat quietly staring at the snow falling against the windows. I hadn't been surprised, just reminded. The next morning my assistant forwarded me an urgent request from a boutique real estate firm looking for a cybersecurity partner for a major international resort contract. There were due diligence issues. The firm's overseas investors needed proper digital protection standards before moving forward. The client, Camden and Blythe, my parents' company. I stared at the screen. The irony was so thick it felt like satire. They needed me. They didn't know the CEO of the firm they were desperate to impress was the same daughter they just deemed too embarrassing to include in their holiday photo. I could have declined, but I didn't. Instead I told my assistant Claire to schedule a meeting. 2 days after Christmas. In our boardroom. No video call. In person only. They showed up. Mom walked in first, looking immaculate in a cream-colored coat and carrying a leather-bound folder. Dad followed, more casual, scanning the place like it wasn't up to his standards. Camille trailed behind them, fake tan and camera ready, flipping her hair like she expected to be recognized. I was already seated at the head of the long conference table when they entered. They didn't recognize me right away. Claire stood up and said, "Our CEO will be leading this meeting. May I introduce you to Ms. Tessa Holt?" They froze. Mom blinked like she was trying to place me from a dream. Camille narrowed her eyes. "Tessa. Wait. Tessa Holt." Dad coughed awkwardly. "Is this a joke?" I smiled. "No joke. You needed a cybersecurity partner for your luxury resort contract. And here I am." Mom sat down slowly. I could feel the temperature shift in the room. She was scrambling. Calculating. "We didn't know," she said too quickly, suddenly trying to smile. "You look different." I ignored that. I reviewed their file calmly, asked all the right technical questions and walked them through our requirements. Professional. Unbothered. I didn't need revenge. I wanted them to squirm under their own assumptions. At the end of the meeting I said the words that made the air go still. "Unfortunately, after reviewing your digital compliance history and due diligence gaps, we're going to have to pass on this partnership." Camille's mouth dropped open. Dad leaned forward, red in the face. You can't be serious, he said. This deal is worth millions. Mom tried to appeal to sentiment. Tessa, this is your family. I stood up. Was I your family when you texted me not to come for Christmas because I wasn't good enough for your image? Silence. They didn't even try to deny it. I nodded once. This meeting is over. And I walked out. I didn't look back when I left the boardroom. I didn't need to. The stunned silence behind me was enough. For once I didn't walk away with a pit in my stomach or guilt dragging at my heels. I walked out with dignity. It wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was something colder, something cleaner, a full stop. I went home, changed into sweatpants, and sat on my balcony with a glass of red wine while the city lights blinked in silence. I had no tears to shed. What they'd done wasn't a surprise, just a confirmation. This was who they had always been. I had just never seen it so clearly before. But that clarity didn't mean it was easy. The next morning I woke to a barrage of messages. Claire, my assistant, had sent an urgent text. You might want to check this. Attached was a link to a financial news site. The headline: Camden and Blythe's flagship resort deal collapses overnight following security compliance failure. I nearly dropped my coffee. Apparently my rejection had caused a chain reaction. Their overseas investors pulled out immediately. The entire deal, worth close to $200 million, had evaporated. All because they didn't do their homework. All because they didn't know the woman they cut off from Christmas was the one person who could have saved them. And I had chosen not to. Not out of spite. Out of self-respect. By noon my email was flooded. My dad sent a terse message with no greeting, just a PDF of some legal jargon and a desperate line at the end. Can you reconsider? Camille followed up with a voice note. I listened mostly out of curiosity. Tessa, look, this is just a huge mess, okay? You caught us off guard. You never said anything about your company. Like, how are we supposed to know you were the CEO? Her voice dropped into something performative. Mom didn't mean the Christmas thing. She just, well, you know how she gets about appearances. I deleted it halfway through. Then came the one I expected least, a call from Mom. I didn't answer. Not right away. But later that evening, when I saw she was still calling for the 5th time, I picked up. I didn't say anything. I just waited. Her voice was strained, brittle. Tessa, honey, I think we should talk. I didn't respond. She tried again. This was a misunderstanding. A huge one. We didn't know the cybersecurity firm was yours. If we had known, well, obviously things would have been different. Exactly, I said, my voice low. That's the point. There was silence. I imagined her standing in her kitchen, clutching the phone, trying to twist the situation into something salvageable. We just thought you weren't doing that well. You never said. You never explained what you really did. I laughed. A small bitter sound. You never asked, Mom. You never cared to ask. The silence turned sharp. You told me I wasn't welcome at Christmas because I didn't fit your image. I hope now you realize your image doesn't fit me. She made a soft noise, maybe a sigh, maybe regret. But it was too late. Whatever guilt she had now was performative, convenient, because I was suddenly valuable. But love isn't transactional. And neither is respect. We ended the call there. I never said I forgave her. I didn't hang up in anger. I simply ended it. Peacefully. Like closing a chapter. A few days later I learned more about the fallout. The investors didn't just pull out of the deal. They issued a public statement about digital trust and data transparency. Camden and Blythe was unofficially blacklisted from a few elite investor networks. My dad tried to cover it up with some PR about restructuring. Camille deleted a bunch of Instagram posts and rebranded herself as a mindfulness entrepreneur. Meanwhile, I kept going. I took a week off. Flew to Prague for New Year's with my closest friends. Ate too many pastries. Laughed until sunrise. For once I didn't feel like I had to prove myself to anyone. And when I came back, something unexpected happened. One of my former college professors reached out. She was now teaching a Women in Tech leadership course and asked if I'd guest speak. I was hesitant at first. Public speaking wasn't my thing. But I said yes. The day I spoke to her class, I told my story. All of it. The girl who was dismissed by her family. The daughter told she didn't belong. The woman who built quietly, who led boldly, and who finally learned that self-worth isn't measured in family invitations or fake smiles. After the session, a student approached me. A shy girl named Serena. Maybe 20 years old. She told me she had considered dropping out because her parents said tech wasn't a real career for women. Until she heard me speak. That meant more than anything my family could ever say. Weeks passed. I never reached back out to my parents. They tried a few more times, a text here, an email there. Camille even sent a bouquet of white roses with a card that read, "Let's not let business get in the way of family." I tossed them in the bin. I was done playing the game where I was only family when it was convenient. Instead, I made a new family. Claire, my assistant, was promoted to Chief Operations Officer. Adam, my kind, goofy neighbor. And I started seeing each other after months of awkward mutual flirtation. I hosted my own version of Christmas in July, full of friends, mismatched decorations, and zero expectations. There was laughter. Bad karaoke. Burnt cookies. It was perfect. I look back now and realize something important. The best kind of revenge isn't loud. It isn't cruel. It's living your truth so fully that the people who once dismissed you have to watch from the sidelines, unable to reach you, unable to claim you, and unable to rewrite the version of you that no longer needs their approval. So when people ask if I regret not helping my parents, I say no. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Just walk away, head held high, while their empire crumbles behind you.